We're ready. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I think we have, in this part of the agenda, we have just one item. Presentation regarding the Public Comprehensive Plan update.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight, my peers and I are going to speak with you regarding comprehensive plans. More specifically, we're going to talk to you about the city's comprehensive plan update and our plan to grow together. The update to the city's comprehensive plan is a collaborative effort amongst the City Council and Mayor, the Planning and Zoning Commission, city leadership, project team, the consultant teams, and the community. Our goal is to present you with a comprehensive plan update that is an actionable public policy document for the facilitation of growth within our community, consistent with the city's mission, vision, and values. City leadership and staff will use the updated comprehensive plan and the execution of these public policy decisions. Comprehensive plans represent long-term visions for the community that guide public policy decisions regarding land use, recreational amenities, transportation networks, and municipal infrastructures. The city's comprehensive plan will assist the community in formulating these actionable public policy decisions that are consistent with the public interest. This plan will identify opportunities to preserve and enhance present advantages and to identify opportunities to overcome present disadvantages within the City of Republic. They will also encourage the most appropriate use of land and water resources and to develop policies that effectively manage future discrepancies in the use and development of land. This coherent plan will allow the city to effectively develop and implement public policy that will preserve, promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, appearance, and general welfare for those living, working, and playing in the City of Republic. The development of this plan will be data-driven. The plan will contain 3 elements: the planning element, the municipal utility element, and the parks element, each containing multiple sub-elements which will work in harmony with one another in a singular, actionable public policy document. The city's current comprehensive plan, adopted 30 years ago in 1988, contains fragmented components which will never be integrated with one another, leaving the city with a fragmented plan that does not present an accurate or comprehensive view of the city or provide a mechanism for the city to develop actionable public policy. The planning element contains 3 market studies, including a housing study, a retail market study, and industry market study. 3 infrastructure studies, including a transportation infrastructure study, stormwater study, and data networking infrastructure studies, as well as a demographic study. The demographic study will include the following: identification of future population growth, identification of current and future household characteristics affecting land use and growth patterns, and physical and environmental barriers to development. The planning element will include recommendations concerning the preservation of sensitive and or vulnerable community environmental resources, recommendations for future growth patterns, and best practices for managed growth. All of these will be incorporated also into an updated future land use map. The municipal utility element consists of 2 sub-elements, the water and sanitary sewer. The water sub-element contains 13 tasks, while the sanitary sewer sub-elements contain 11 tasks. These tasks include project management and coordination, resource documents and data review, facilities inventory, capital improvement plans, master plan reports, stakeholder involvement, policymaker presentations and plan adoptions, as well as tasks specifically associated with the city's water and sanitary sewer utility systems. The parks element contains 6 tasks, including appraisal of existing resources, assessment of community needs, correlation of assessed needs with the community resources, action plan, expenditure analysis, and then finally the final product. The comprehensive plan consists of multiple phases and components, including pre-planning, which we are just now finishing, award of contracts and project scheduling, data collection, public participation, data analysis, the actual writing and assembly of that plan, presentation of the plan, and then finally plan implementation. The project team is currently finalizing the pre-planning phase, which includes the consultant proposal review for several sub-elements and identification of internal resources. The council was recently presented with a workshop along with recommendations for award of contracts for several of those sub-element tasks. The project team and consultant with the project's consultants will be working together to establish a proposed project schedule, which will be presented to the City Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission at a later date. Once all contracts have been awarded, the consultants will begin their work on the components of the project, while simultaneously the project team and staff will begin working on corresponding sub-elements, including a land use and demographic study. The Republic City Council, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the community at large will receive regular updates on the progress of the project through multiple mediums, including the project's website, administrative reporting, monthly City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission updates, social media channels, and public presentations. The Comprehensive Plan Update project will consist of numerous opportunities and mechanisms for the public to become involved, including the new plan project website, republicgrowingtogether.com, designed as an online engagement tool for the community to comment on the project, participate in polls and surveys, and to facilitate the communication of the project updates to the community. The community will also have opportunities to become involved through a citizen survey, which will be coming up in the next month, participation in project workshops and open house events, and opportunities to speak with city leadership and the project team at community events at multiple intervals throughout the project. The City of Republic's Comprehensive Plan Update, once complete, will be in part a comprehensive compilation of data derived from the planning, municipal utility, and parks elements, and the sub-elements of infrastructure, market, and demographic studies. The plan will include descriptive and illustrative data representing the current conditions of the community, citizen and stakeholder involvement input, and recommendations for the development of that actionable public policy consistent with the city's mission, vision, and values. The next portion, the planning element, I will turn over to Garrett.
Thank you. When Karen talks about this being an actionable public policy document, I think what that means for all of you and what it means for all of us here is very similar in that we need for this to be, and I mean that we need for it to be, something that we actually use and can use and appreciate using. So decisions like the decisions you guys are going to make later tonight, you guys can probably, those of you who have been here long enough, can probably count on one hand the number of times our current comprehensive plan has actually helped you make that decision. So if that gives you some sense, I mean, I probably don't even need to tell you, but sometimes it feels sort of like there's a lot of questions, not a lot of easy answers, and it sort of feels like you're flying by the seat of your pants making some decisions. And so having this actionable public policy document is something that needs to change that whole situation. I believe it's something that will change that whole situation, something that will help to actually guide our decisions and to give us a high level of confidence in making even really tough decisions about rezones and about capital improvements and where the city is going to invest money over the next 5, 10, 15 years or so. One thing that is absolutely amazing to me is how much time and money can be spent on comprehensive planning projects like the one we're embarking on now for absolutely nothing to change. You get out of it a pretty booklet that has a bunch of pretty maps in it, but still nothing changes in it, and it may not become an actionable document that you can actually use to, add confidence to your decision making. So if there's anything that I would say we are very intent on, it's that this particular comprehensive plan does not end up like that. And so one of the strategies we are employing to make sure that that doesn't happen is, as a staff, we are trying to make sure that we own this project from beginning to end, and that we have a very high level of interest all the way through it. It's very easy in these types of situations because it does require so much technical expertise and so much resources that you have to hire consultants to supplement, because we're a small municipality, we have a small staff. There's things that we just simply can't get to. The risk is you hand it over to those consultants, they take it, they do what they're going to do with it, they give you some deliverable, and you don't understand necessarily how they got from A to B. You just take it and, what do I do with this now, sort of a thing. So we are very intent on not allowing that to happen. One of the decisions that we made, it wasn't an easy decision, but everybody's had to make it at some point, is when are you going to hire a consultant, and when are you going to just take care of that yourself? So on the planning side of it, one decision that we made was that we were going to do as much of that in-house as we possibly could. And we were only going to ask a consultant to help us if it was an area that required technical expertise where we really just couldn't get there. And so instead of hiring a bunch of consultants, what we've done is we've hired a contract planner, Chris Tabor, who's here this evening. He interned for us. He's a graduate from Missouri State University from their public administration program. We've hired him to work with us through the rest of the year, and we're going to try to do as much of this in-house. We still will get consultants to do those specialized market studies to help us figure out where the housing market is, where the retail market is, where the industry market is, and we'll take that data and make some decisions with it. So we will be doing it with some consultation, but primarily we are intent on owning this thing and making sure that every staff person has a high level of interest in it, because ultimately it's going to be the people in this room tonight that are going to be making the decisions with this information, not those consultants. They'll give us the deliverables and then they'll be on to the next job. We're the ones that actually have to make something real with all of this. So just to give you that overview, sort of where we are from a strategic standpoint. And then these guiding principles, these are some things I identified early on, and it's actually been early last summer when I came up with some of these guiding principles. And what's interesting is sometimes I come up with some of these things, and over time I'm like, well, those weren't really that great. But these have actually held up pretty well since last June. So I decided we'd leave them in the presentation, and I'd actually talk about them this time. The first one, planning is everything, plans are nothing. That's not my idea. Dwight Eisenhower said that, and I think he's right. The plan that we end up with is just going to be a piece of paper. It's going to be the effort and the work that we put into the planning of that, and all of the knowledge and experience that we gain about the community and about where some of our key investments are going to be. It's going to be that planning process that actually helps us in the long run. The plan will eventually just become a piece of paper that is eventually going to be obsolete, and probably sooner rather than later. It will be the investment in the planning that will make a huge difference for us. So we're very focused on making this planning effort something that is of a high priority, more important than actually the document we end up with at the end. It's more important that people know what's going on and how that plan was put together than that plan actually ends up being something that is accurate over time. Everyone has a plan until the plan gets punched in the mouth. That's Mike Tyson said that. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. But the point is that we'll have a plan and we'll have a vision for how things are going to probably turn out in Republic, but then something's going to happen. A recession, a change in the market, a change in politics. It could be a number of different things that will cause some level of disturbance in this community that will change things, and it will completely alter the plan. That's why the planning is important. That's why it will be critical that we have people in place here in this organization that understood how that plan got put together in the first place, so that we can put it back together or adjust it when those disturbances happen. Plans are only as good as their implementation. Again, another reason why the planning is more important than the plan. if we don't understand the plan and how that came together, we're going to really, really struggle to implement it. The plan, the land use plan, the transportation plan that the city has now, those were adopted in '05 and '06, and some of you were around back then. Those are not bad plans. The message we're giving you tonight is not that those were bad plans. They're actually pretty good plans. But the people that were invested in developing those plans were gone almost as soon as they were adopted, and the interest in those plans went with them. So we're intent on putting some things in place here so that these plans are actually something that get implemented and that maintain a high level of interest among staff so that they become reality and they don't just sit on the shelf somewhere. If you're predicting beyond 5 years in the future, you're wrong. I think that's true. I think there are limits to what we can predict, and although this plan will have a time horizon of 15 to 20 years, you can bet that anything we try to predict beyond that 5-year time frame, it's going to be wrong. That's not to say there's not value in trying to project out that far into the future. It's just worth recognizing that it's going to be wrong. And then we're going to have to make adjustments, and that's, again, why the planning is more important than the plan. And finally, I think this is important, be for, not against. It's very easy, I have discovered, when you're trying to look forward as a community or as a group, and that community or that group also has a past, right? So you're trying to look forward, but you have a past. And if there are some negative things in that past, you can easily get hung up on those things, and it will hinder your ability to look forward and to focus on looking forward, getting caught up in the negativity of the past. And what you end up with is, and this isn't to say anything bad about people, everybody gets caught up in this sort of thing at some point, but you get hung up in something, and then you're forward-looking, right? And your forward-lookingness is all about preventing something bad. And that's not a good way to necessarily plan, is just to be so focused on preventing something bad that already happened in the past, right? You end up with some really weird stuff that way. I'd rather our community be for, not against. Instead of trying to stop bad things that may have happened or that we may be worrying about happen, if we try to look prospectively and try to make sure that the good things do happen, a lot of times it will crowd out those negative things that might otherwise have happened. So focus on some of the positive things. It's no different than trying to maintain your lawn. You know, there's only so much Roundup you can spray, and then eventually you've killed everything. Another very effective approach is to make sure you plant good seed on an annual basis, and that grass will eventually crowd those weeds out. It's not to say Roundup's not important, but it's not something you use all over the place. That make sense?
I'm going to give you just a little bit of information about the water and sanitary sewer elements of the master plan, and I'll echo what Garrett and Karen have said about the continuity of our plans is so important, in a sense that the water and sanitary sewer need to plan for where growth and development are going to occur. So they need to mesh well with the planning elements as well. For the water and sanitary sewer, we broke these up into subtasks for each of them, just because technically there's so much information in order to build these plans that it would be hard to keep track of where we were and what we were accomplishing. So we bust them up into smaller tasks. Just generally, the comprehensive plan will provide a mechanism by which infrastructure will be maintained and built so that our capital investments are not wasted. We want to put new water line, new sanitary sewer in the places where they belong, where it makes sense for growth and development. Detailed assessment of current systems for the purpose of evaluating their condition and forecasting maintenance and replacement activity. Right now, I would say we're on a reaction basis. We're not really forecasting what maintenance we need to do. We're reacting to problems. So these plans are going to basically grade our structure and prioritize where our repairs need to be focused so that we can prevent the reaction to emergencies type situations. And then lastly, these plans provide a way for us to look at a new development or a new piece of infrastructure and see how it's going to affect the system so that we don't overload our lift station so that we don't build a new restaurant that has no water pressure. The structure of these two proposals, like I said, we have one master services agreement with Burns and McDonald, and then individual task orders for each element. The first task order is the water sub-element. This is where they're going to build a hydraulic model, and don't ask me exactly what that means because I can't tell you. But think of it as a computerized representation of our system that we can input impacts from different types of developments, and we can see how that reacts in the system in real time, and then make an assessment of how we need to prepare for that type of development. Demand projections for 20 years. They're going to look at our wells and look at what our demands are going to be and see what type of capital investments we need to make. And then, like I said, it will provide us a prioritized list of how we're going to maintain our system. This task order 2 is actually a water and wastewater sub-element. One thing we noticed is that our technical specifications, the things we use to build, to give to developers, or even to build new infrastructure ourselves, is a little bit lacking. So task order 2, we've asked them to work with us, and we're going to update our technical specifications to be current. And that's current with MDNR, DNR, EPA, just so we're up to speed. The sanitary sewer sub-elements, tasks 3, 4, and 5. They're a lot. Task order 3, we've actually started. They started on Monday, and you'll see these guys out and about through town. They're doing a surveyed location of all of our manholes with an elevation assessment. One thing we found is that we don't have an accurate representation of the elevations of our sewer lines. So it's hard to say when a development comes in, yeah, we think it'll run downhill because we think it's downhill. This gives us that information we need to say, yes, you're downhill. And that's going on right now. So there's 2 survey crews out and about in the city checking every manhole. Task order 4 is the flow monitoring and the hydrologic analysis. The flow monitoring we complete in order to see how a rain event impacts our sewer system, just from infiltration through the ground, through open manholes. What we want to get is a period of wet weather or a couple of big rainfall events, and then we want to see a period of dry weather so we can see what type of impacts we're seeing from rain events. And then the hydraulic model exposes areas of risk within our system. So with that flow data, we can see if we hit a 2-year storm or a 5-year storm, or just like the storm we had the other day, we know what it will take to overflow our lift stations, where we have to go into a bypass mode, so that instead of reacting to it, we see it coming and we can prepare for it. The last portion is the actual master plan for the wastewater. It looks at growth projections, looks at finding a location for a new facility in the future, how long we can go before we have to have that facility. And the last task order is not actually on this PowerPoint. It's task order 6, and that's the stormwater element. And the goal in that is to update the specifications to be current, and then to assess the way we collect stormwater in the city. So we'll look at things like regional detention, multiple developments sending their stormwater to one area for a detention, and just see where our problem areas are through the stormwater element.
Good evening. I'm actually going to probably join them. Just put a lot of Mr. Wilson so much. There you go. Good to see some of you again. Good to see some of you for the first time. But, the Parks and Recreation portion of this, probably the simplest element, but by far the best element. That was a joke. a little bit partial. But we've been operating off this document ever since August of 2009. It has served us well. As with everything, there's opportunities to improve, and I think this is yet another opportunity to improve on that plan. But it's an absolutely ideal state if you can redo your Parks and Recreation Master Plan every 10 years, and this just so happens to, when we get this done in 2019, it'll be exactly 10 years. So I can tell you, area agencies, compete agencies, national agencies don't usually get them done every 10 years. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us. And it goes right here as opportunity to coordinate with the comprehensive plan. In 2009, when we did this was a standalone item just on our own little island over here. So to have it done with the comprehensive plan is an awesome thing. We've had a number of projects and goals we've completed as part of that master plan. Very proud of that. Our staff has done a pretty good job carrying out that vision of that 2009 document. There's still quite a bit more to go, but we can have those projects we haven't got done yet, and then also infuse new projects as part of this other master plan. This next one is huge for us. We do this a lot right now through citizen surveys, word of mouth, just go out and talk to our people what they like, what they don't like. But anytime we can have another opportunity for community engagement is huge. And to have it do it on this level with the engagement as part of the comprehensive plan processes will be something we're really looking forward to. New parks. We've had probably 3 or 4 new parks since 2009. It's hard to believe, but in a town of our size, we're up to 8 municipal parks, which is awesome. We have roughly 170 acres of parkland. According to Missouri Parks and Recreation Standards and national standards, we're right where we need to be or slightly above it, so we're very proud of that as well. New trends. This is interesting. In 2009, the big trend, I'll never forget when we were doing the master plan, was a rock climbing wall. It's like, you got to do a rock climbing wall. We're like, I don't know. Glad we didn't do one now. But not saying it's still popular, but I remember Ozark did one, and I don't think it's getting a lot of use right now. But new trends, new goals, new mission, new vision, our own city's mission, vision, and values. But this next one here is probably the most important component of all of them. I know I talked about this at the council meeting, and Mr. Wilson, you'll have to suffer through it again here. But we have 2 local quarter-cent sales taxes expiring in 2022, and 2023, respectively. One of those is for general capital improvements, which we earmarked for the aquatic center. The other one is for general park operations. Those 2 sales taxes in today's dollars generate about $1.3 million, and that's on our $3.2 million budget. So you can imagine the kind of hit our department would take if we should happen not to renew those sales taxes. So this comes at an ideal time for us. We can begin setting our plans for those initiatives, those renewals, those initiatives right now. And we can even go out early. There's nothing to say we can't go out early on one of them. We may be prepared to do that as early as 19, depending on where the city's sitting on a number of other initiatives. And once again, this will be our roadmap for the next 10 years, similar as the 2009 plan was. We ultimately selected Great River Engineering for this project. We're able to work with them a little bit on the Highway 174 trail, got in at the end of that project. But as we went through the process and we vetted out our candidates and the project team brought them in for interviews, they really stood out. The local approach was really good. Our other candidates, I believe, were the Kansas City area. But more importantly than that, we think they share the same common interests as we do with this part of the plan is what's the next big thing? What's the next wow thing that we can do? One thing I think we've done fairly well in our department is we've stretched our necks out a little bit. We try to be ahead of the curve. We try to do things that weren't necessarily safe, and they've actually really paid off for us. The flow rider, at the aquatic center, the amphitheater, both of those have been huge home runs for our department. All of those things came to light again when we had our initial contract meeting with them. They already came into that meeting. This was just a meeting more or less to talk about the contract. They already had a couple of wow ideas, and we were very impressed with that. They have staff in place. One particular individual named Journey Jackson, she's been around the Parks and Recreation field for about 25 years. And then one of their local owners, principal, is from Republic, and we think that buy-in, too, will get us where we need to be. So excited about that partnership with them, but as Garrett stated and as Andrew stated, this is not a consultant project. This is a staff and consultant project. And members of our staff, members of the Parks and Recreation staff will be involved with this heavily every step of the way. Because ultimately, a citizen won't know the consultant, but they might know me. They'll for sure know Jennifer. They'll for sure know Chris Arnold. They'll for sure know Chris Parks. They're used to seeing those people every day, and they're comfortable talking with them, and they can bring them ideas. So this is just an overview of the process. can tell you this is a pretty much standard across the nation way of doing a Parks and Recreation master plan. However, there's good stuff here, and we got to go through the standard to get to where you want to be. So the very first thing, appraisal of existing resources. You go out and find what you have in inventory right now. The physical inventory. How many ball fields do you have? How many gymnasiums do you have? Aquatic center, whatever. Horseshoe pits, it can go all the way down. But then take that and then go get your community needs assessment. I think a lot of times, and I know I'm as guilty as anyone, I'll say, you know what we need? We need 6 more ball fields. Okay, I'm one person, but what does the community think we need? So that input is tremendously important. So we take that community needs, we go back to here, and we correlate the two, right? Our community is telling us they'd like to see X. We only have Y. What do we need to do to get to X? So that process right there alone, data-driven results, which are huge. And then out of there, we create our action plan, and we task the consultants to come up with an expenditure analysis. How much does something cost so we can foresee it when we might be able to do it? Always tremendous. I mean, everything is so expensive nowadays, so we got to be able to forecast out. If we want to build a 6-field wagon wheel baseball softball complex, and that's $3.2 million, we got to be able to plan out for that 3 or 4 or 5 years in advance. And finally, the final product, which is something in the form of this, but we want a little bit more than what we had this time. This is a lot of sheer data, but we want more relatable images from our consultant this time that we can share on boards to our community so they have a better picture of where we want to be. Timeline, like I stated before, ideal for us will finish in 2019. We anticipate about a 10 or 11 month project. I don't see any reason in the world why we can't get it done. We are spreading this out over 2 years budgetary wise, or the cost for our portion of this is about $53,000. We're spreading it out over 18 and 19. But the end product, we keep going back to this right here of why this is important, but ultimately we're all about planning ahead, looking ahead. We've got to get ahead of those 2 initiatives. We got to do things right. Got to continue to doing things right, the right time for the right reason. Take care of the money we have now. We're extremely lucky. I mean, extremely lucky. And I think we talk about this every day in our staff meetings. It seems like we should anyway. Public Parks and Recreation has 3 sales taxes going for us. There are 2 locals and a county. If you go to the city of Nixa, they have exactly 0. So that tells you where we stand, and hopefully we were taking good care and being good stewards of our citizens, of our community's money. And I think we do, but we have to get ahead of the planning element as far as the master plan will help us with these 2 sales tax initiatives coming in 2022 and 2023. So we're excited about it, excited about our partner and consultant in GRE, and excited about doing it as part of the comprehensive plan process. So ultimately in February, March of next year, we'll bring out a new 10-year plan that will guide us for all the way up until 2028. So it's pretty exciting. Thank you.
So in closing, you've received a lot of information tonight, but again, there are a few things that I want to touch on before we leave. The city's comprehensive plan project is a collaborative effort, again, amongst the city council and the mayor, the planning and zoning commission, city leadership, the project team, the consultant teams, and the community. The update will allow the city to effectively develop those public policy decisions to preserve, promote, and improve the health, safety, appearance, and general welfare for everyone enjoying our city, for everyone that's living, working, and playing in the community. The plan update will provide the community with the comprehensive plan representing those long-term visions for the community that will serve as those public policy guiding decision for land use, recreational amenities, transportation networks, and then for the utility infrastructure investments. Those, in conjunction with the city's mission and vision and values, will allow us all to make those good public policy decisions so that we can move forward and plan together in the City of Republic. So I have one final item before I open it up for question and answers, and this is our draft comprehensive vision statement. So the City of Republic will be known as an area growing together, where family and community are valued with a strong and diverse economy. The city will stand out as a bold leader in meeting the regional challenges of a growing population. City leadership will act urgently in the execution of the city's vision, mission, and values in an insightful and caring manner. The city's commitment to professionalism and ethical decision-making will encourage community involvement, enhance public trust, and promote the city as a safe and secure community where we are all proud to live, work, and play. So that wraps up the formal presentation for tonight, but I would like to open it up to questions from the commissioners, if you have any, for any of us tonight. And if you don't have any questions, that's okay. We presented you with a lot of information. There will be opportunities for you to ask questions during regular updates at our monthly meetings. I would encourage everyone, if you have not read all of the information provided in your booklet, please do so. I did write several memos regarding just comprehensive plans in general. There is a memo regarding the responsibilities of the Planning and Zoning Commission, so how you fit into this project. And then also there's a progress update. So that's everything that we've done to date up until last week. And just within the last week, we made some additional progress. So the plan moving forward is to provide these regular updates during our regular meetings here the second Monday of every month. And then we'll also do the same to the City Council. Everything will also be on the city's new projects website, republicgrowingtogether.com. There's an opportunity for you to email the project team and ask any questions. The last thing I guess I will tell you all about is the last page of your booklet is the photo contest information flyer. So the goal of the photo contest is we want to see what the City of Republic looks like from everyone. So not just from staff, not from those on the project team that are working on the project, but from everyone that's living, working, and playing in our community. So feel free to check out the website and the photo contest. Tell your friends and your neighbors, kids and grandkids, that anyone can submit a photo. And these photos may be used in the comprehensive plan document itself. We may use those photos on the project website and also displayed throughout city facilities. So great opportunity to get some notoriety here in our community. Any questions? No? Thank you.
Ken's got
One, I know it's a question, not just a thought here. You know, and again, of course, I know you've redone the wall and you probably don't want it littered up with maps, but I will tell you it was nice when we used to have some of the maps that kind of said, this is what we kind of think ought to be commercial and this and that. Not that it's going to become that, but it gave us a little kind of a guide of where things are going. You know, visually seeing something is sometimes a lot better than having to just abstract
Just
writing
text,
down
sure.
that doesn't actually tell you where. So when we look at things, we say, yeah, this is in the right place, or, well, wait a minute here, this is totally out of what we were thinking about. Why are we doing this?
Right.
But just a thought. I just know that I know that you guys make up a lot of your maps, and you have a map department there.
And
I guess you still do, right? Yeah, I figured you
Yes.
did. So anyway, that's just my thought.
Okay.
I like seeing stuff, and if you say, well, this is kind of what our thought, it may not really go that way, but you have to remake them every so often.
Absolutely. So one of the things that will result in the end product is that updated future land use map. So we will have that at the end of this project. We will also make sure to include the flume maps for rezoning cases. And I think I mentioned it previously, but we will be having PowerPoint presentations for Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. So we'll actually have the opportunity for all of us to look at the map when we get to that point. So hopefully that is something that will assist you all also as we go through each of these cases. But we'll definitely have those updated maps at the end of the project on the city's website, and then as they are updated on the project website itself. Thank you. Going once? Okay. I think we just need probably a motion to adjourn.
Well, this is all one meeting, right?
No.
Okay.
We will adjourn before 7
That's what I
o'clock.
was asking earlier.
So moved.
Fine.
Second.
I have a motion.
Second move.
Do I hear a second? Second. Got a motion and a second. Roll call. Who's roll call?
Tony Mitchell,
Aye.
Shane Grooms. Alan Dixon.
Aye.
Ransom Ellis.
Aye.
Ken Sawyer.
Aye.
George North.
Aye.
Thank you.
Same here.
Effectively, we will be in adjournment from this meeting to begin the next meeting at 7 o'clock.